The College Baseball College World Series Futures and Bracket Picks episode of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network on the College Baseball Experience is brought to you by Edge Boost, the bank account that is built for bettors. Sign up today at edgeboost.bet with the promo code SGPN and get a $25 deposit bonus today. And what's going on, everybody? Welcome back into a brand new episode of the College Baseball Experience. It is the granddaddy of them all, the Bracket Picks episode, and we're also going to be giving away some of our favorite futures for this year's NCAA Baseball Tournament, bracket and possible College World Series appearance futures and national championship futures. The structure of this is pretty simple because we're going to try to keep it, quicker because back when Colby and I were doing this could turn into a really long episode. So we're going to go from the top left portion of the bracket all the way down, top right portion of the bracket all the way down. We'll talk about our Omaha 8, and it'll basically be who wins our super regionals. If you're tuning in just for the NCAA baseball tournament, if you're an NBA guy, as the NBA playoffs are winding down, if you're an NHL guy, as the NHL playoffs are winding down, if you were a college basketball guy that is just tuning in for the postseason, if you're a casual bettor looking for action, the way the NCAA baseball tournament goes is there's 4 teams per pool in a regional format. It's a double elimination. So you could see teams play up to 5 games. Pitching can get stretched thin, or you could see teams play 3 games and move on. Then the second round is the super regional round, and it's a best of 3 series. That's what these teams have done all season long, 3-game weekends. If you win the first 2, you move on to Omaha, where the College World Series is played at. It then goes back to the regional format where it's a 4-team pool, double elimination, and then the College World Series finals between 2 teams, a 3-game best of 3 series in the center of America, Omaha. Johnny, what's going on, my man? Any overarching thoughts before we run in and start picking some of these regionals and we promote our bracket challenge that we're running over at d1baseball.com?
I got to say, man, this is the best time of year. This is the combination of Christmas, July 4th, New Year's, Thanksgiving, my birthday, St. Patty's Day, all rolled into one. And I got news for you. I think this is probably one of the most balanced fields with the most parity we've had in a while. And we're going to see some crazy shit happen. We're going to see some big time upsets, maybe more than we usually do. Because just as a reminder to everybody, statistically speaking, based on history, regional hosts advance about 70% of the time, and super regional hosts advance about 70% of the time. That percentage might be a little bit lower this year.
I'm in the same boat of thinking, Johnny. I have said for the last couple of weeks, I'm not sure there's an elite team this year in college baseball. For the first 10 weeks, it looked like it was Texas. They were kind of hovering above everybody else in the SEC. And then they lost their ace pitcher in Jared Spencer, and they've been leaking a little oil down the stretch. They're the number 2 overall seed. I'm not saying that there's any sort of weakness there. It's just they haven't been as sharp. And I think that was your number 1 team for most of the year. And Tennessee was the last team to take a loss, and all of a sudden they are the 14th overall seed. So that's just been the type of season that we've had. Let's start in the Nashville regional. The way that I think we can structure it, I'll lead it off, and then I'll let you go first for most of it. But on d1baseball.com, the bracket challenge, we have a link in the YouTube description and the podcast description. Click on that. It's free to enter. The winner gets a $250 SGPN gift card. You need to pick a winner of each pool and a runner-up of each pool. In the Nashville regional, Vanderbilt's the 1 seed, Louisville the 2 seed. East Tennessee State is the 3 seed, and Wright State is the 4. Johnny, I went with the Commodores here. I think that they have the best pitching staff in this regional, and it's not really close. Wright State really lacks pitching, but they can hit some bombs. Louisville kind of got decimated by injuries this year. They can put up runs, and if they face Vanderbilt, that's a rivalry. And if Vandy doesn't show up to the ballpark ready to score, Louisville's going to put up 5 easy. And East Tennessee State, I think, is actually the frisky team here that could be in the regional final. I have ETSU as my runner-up to get a little cute. and earn some possible extra points on a lot of people that may go chalk. I have Vanderbilt winning the pool. Johnny, your thoughts, your picks?
Yeah, I echo the same sentiment. I think Vanderbilt is probably the worst best team that we might have. They might be the 5th best team in the SEC based on talent and roster construction. But listen, man, you got to give them credit. They really played their asses off at the end of the year. They won the SEC tournament, which we gave out on this program at 6-1, by the way. So bravo, Doors. They have a Hall of Fame, the Bill Belichick of college baseball, and head coach Tim Corbin. And they can pitch. That's always been the MO of Vandy baseball. They have one of my favorite pitchers in the country in J.D. Thompson. They have Cody Bowker, who's done well, Connor Fennell, an emerging freshman, and Austin Nye, who could be a secret weapon for them. They have a very deep bullpen with Sawyer Hawks, one of the best relievers, and they have a stud in Miller Green as their closer. Their offense isn't great. They only have one guy above 300. They only have one guy with double-digit home runs, but these guys are timely. They do all the little things right. They're fundamentally sound, which is rare in baseball nowadays. And my favorite player on this offense is R.J. Austin. This kid is a gamer. He shows up in the big moment. There's nobody the Vandy boys want up with the game on the line than R.J. Austin. By that trade, I think Vandy, because they have a relatively easy draw and they lucked out here, it's hard not to go with Vandy at home in Nashville. But I do believe East Tennessee State is worth a sprinkle because this offense rips them daddy hacks.
They do. They 100% do. And their starting rotation is not bad. Their number 2 went down with a UCL injury 2 weeks ago. So they really didn't have a whole lot of time to adjust. I don't necessarily love that coming in for the Bucks. But yeah, I'm in agreement with Vanderbilt. I agree with you on RJ Austin is like the most fun player to watch over there for the Commodores. He went through a cold spell in the middle of the year, and that was kind of where Vanderbilt we didn't know what the Commodores would be this year. All of a sudden he gets going, and the offense has been in a groove lately. And this is all of a sudden they've played their way into the number 1 overall seed. I think the most important hitter on the offense is Brody Johnson because he provides a lot of their power source because it's a team that doesn't hit for a whole lot of power. And, in today's day and age of college baseball, the home run kind of runs this one. So shout out to Daniel Cady, Daniel Cady, who's tuning in live right now. Along with 25 other people live on YouTube. Not our normal start time on SGPN. We're doing double duty. I believe Colby's doing a college football episode later on tonight. So, yeah, I mean, working overtime with TCE. Welcome in. And, yeah, biggest and best time of the year. We'll be mentioning any of the futures as we're talking regional by regional here. The next regional that we're going to talk about is in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, as Southern Miss is hosting the 2-seed Alabama, the 3-seed Miami, Florida, and the 4-seed Columbia. Johnny, take me to wherever you're going in Hattiesburg.
So a lot of this stuff that we're talking about is a little bit repetitive of what we talked about Monday, but because some people might have missed the show and, just to give everybody a chance to hear this stuff again, Southern Miss is, in my opinion, they're a soft favorite. I think they're probably one of the top teams on upset alert this weekend. And, listen, they had 27 total wins in the Sun Belt, including the conference tournament, and that's awesome. But the Sun Belt was down this year. We can both agree it was really them and Coastal Carolina. They don't really have any signature wins outside of TCU early in the year, which, that's a good win. That's quality. But I don't love this Southern Miss team. I love JB Middleton, their Friday guy. He's a true stud. He's an ace. Southern Miss always gets one of these aces to show out every year. It was Tanner Hall before, Hurston Waldrip. JB Middleton is definitely that guy. But I don't trust them as a whole. I think their numbers, which look good on offense, Nick Monastery was Conference Player of the Year. JB Middleton was a superstar as well. I think their offensive numbers are a little bit inflated because of the competition they faced. Alabama as the 2 seed, which is anywhere from plus 150 to plus 175, which I've given out, is more than live here. I think you can make a case Alabama is the most live 2 seed in the entire country. they're weird because they have a lot of talent, but they've really played a lot of ups and downs. They don't always play to their potential. They kind of fall apart in inopportune moments this year, like taking the series at Vanderbilt where they were up 6 runs, I believe, and they blew it in that game 3. But Bama's got a good pitching staff with Zane Adams as the Sunday guy, who was the Friday guy. Riley Quick is probably their best arm, commanding the Saturday role, and Tyler Fay's been decent in the Friday spot. Justin LeBron's a candidate to go 1-1 in 26. And with the plus money, I think Alabama is the right side here, in my opinion.
Yeah, and in some places you can find Southern Miss at plus money too. But I think this regional is super tight. I think even Miami could play themselves into a situation that they may find themselves favorable. They've got a nice 3-man rotation over there with a couple of freshmen. That's the only nervousness I have about the Canes, and the offense hasn't been super consistent all year outside of Daniel Cuvée. Southern Miss's offense, you mentioned a lot of the pieces, but Nick Monaster, Matthew Russo, Carson Pato, this has been one of the best offensive units for the Golden Eagles I can remember over the last couple of years, and they've been a really good baseball program, and this fan base is very passionate. This is going to be one of your better home atmospheres this weekend. It's also going to be on national television a lot this weekend, so I highly recommend you tune into this regional because it's also one of my favorite uniform regions too. I went with the home team. I went with Southern Miss. I think it's going to come down to that final win or go home type of games in the regional final between Southern Miss and Alabama. I think Southern Miss has the better pitching staff when it comes to who I can trust. I know the strength of schedule has been a little bit weaker this year than Alabama, but Alabama in the SEC just kind of sputtered down the stretch. Didn't win many series. They didn't get swept often, but I think they just kind of run out of pitching the later the weekend goes, especially in that bullpen, because they've got really good 2 guys in Braylon Myers and Carson Osmer, but they're both right-handed pitchers. There's not really a lefty to match up with some of Southern Miss's big left-handed boppers. I'll go with the Golden Eagles here, and we'll move to the next up on our bracket is the Florida State Tallahassee regional. Florida State's hosting the number 2 seed Northeastern, comes in on a 27-game win streak. Mississippi State is your 3 seed. Bethune-Cookman is the 4 seed. Johnny, I need your regional winner and runner up.
Yeah, I like Florida State here. I give them about minus 110. It's taking a little bit of steam here, and it's anywhere from like minus 110 to maybe minus 140 across different books. So definitely shop around, especially with a tournament like this. I mean, I personally think Florida State's chance to win it all was last year. And listen, their offense is a lot better than I thought it would be coming in. Miles Bailey, the emergence of a huge freshman with a ton of power is big for them. And their starting rotations is pretty good. I mean, Jamie Arnold's the best pitcher in the country. He's a guy I believe should be the first arm off the board, maybe the 1-1 pick to Washington in July. Joey Vellini's good. Wes Mendez definitely has a high ceiling, especially as a Sunday guy. But their bullpen's awful, which does concern me. But I think considering they're at home, they've been here before, and, there's a big talent gap between them and the rest of the field here. So either somebody knows something I don't, why FSU is such a short favorite, or this is free money. Mississippi State, to me, isn't that good of a team. Pico Khan's a stud, but he struggled late in the season. Ace Reese is a dog, newcomer of the year in the SEC. So they have a couple of bats. Northeastern, I mean, they've had an historic year. They've won, I think, 27 straight games, 48 overall. Yep. But ultimately, despite how many talented players they have and what they've played up to, I don't know if they're going to be able to do it against the better competition. They play in the CAA. They don't play any legit teams in a weekend throughout the year. So while I think Northeastern's live, I have them as my runner-up, but I have Florida State at the short favorite price to win this region.
So I went with Florida State as well. I think Northeastern is going to be a cute pick. So they played one of the 7th worst schedules getting into the NCAA tournament. Their best wins of the year were against Kansas State. the pitching staff is off the charts. Like it's the best, like by far in this year's field of 64, running a lot of team stats, both starting pitcher ERA, bullpen ERA, top 5 in the field of 64. I don't know how much I can trust that with the schedule that they've played so far this season. And Florida State's offense is pretty talented. Like that's the strength of this year's team for the Seminoles. You've got names like, as I'm trying to frantically pull them up, but Miles Bailey looked incredible in the ACC tournament. He can really turn on some balls this year. And also Drew Farreau and Max Williams, Alex Lodies is probably your Golden Spikes favorite this year. Florida State, I think, has offensive talent that Northeastern really hasn't seen this year. And I'm gonna bet on the home team that also has a pretty good fan base, historic fan base that has never won a national championship, that is still very energized and hungry to get back to Omaha after what happened last year in a check swing debacle that pretty much eliminated them as it sent them to the losers bracket and they couldn't battle out. So give me Florida State as the winner. And I think Northeastern has enough pitching and enough, swagger, confidence that they get to that regional final. But I ultimately think that the talent in this pool, the cream, might rise to the top. In Corvallis, your number 1 seed is Oregon State. The 2 seed is TCU. Southern California is the 3, and St. Mary's is the 4. Johnny, regional winner and runner-up of the pool.
I caught a lot of shit from Oregon State, the Oregon State faithful this week, because I believe the RPI is garbage, and they got the 6th RPI despite not playing in a conference and not really having many signature wins outside of UC Irvine. And I was even more fuming when they got the 8th seed when the committee handed it to them over Oregon and Coastal Carolina. And listen, I think Oregon State's a good team. I don't have anything in terms of like malice towards them, but if I'm being truly objective, they have the best players in this region. Ava Arquette is probably the best player in this region. Dax Whitney might be the most talented pitcher. But the problem is, and this is what I learned about Oregon State in the first couple weeks, they rely on just a few players to get it done. They have like 2 or 3 players on offense led by Ava Arquette that have to carry the load. And if they don't, it spells trouble. Their pitching is ultra talented, but falls into a rut a lot of the times. They're very inconsistent. And when that inconsistency happens and they blow up, that's really where they fall into trouble. Because of that, I'm going to avoid the fair minus 135 price, even playing at a very home-friendly park in Corvallis. That's a tough place to play for opposing teams, especially with the travel. But TCU, I think, is going to be pissed off that they got left out in the cold of the hosting. Their reward for winning 20-plus games in the Big 12, including the tournament, was having to be a 2 seed and going to play in Corvallis. So Tommy Lepore is probably the best pitcher, not the most talented, but the best pitcher in this region. And I think they're going to have enough. Mason Brassfield, I like, is pretty solid. Brendan Sloan out of the bullpen. They have a couple of arms I like in the pen. I know injuries hit them, so the depth has kind of shrunk a little bit. And their offense is getting it together. I mean, they have a really talented freshman in Sawyer Strohsnyder, won Big 12 Freshman of the Year, who's a name to circle in a couple of years when his draft time comes around. And they have other guys that have really performed well. And I think TCU is not just hungry, but I think they're probably more of a complete team than Oregon State. I don't sleep on USC. I think USC is interesting here, but ultimately, I think Tommy Lepore is going to go against SC game 1, shove, get it done, and then they're going to find a way to beat Oregon State in game 2, get to the 2-0 spot. And I think TCU at plus 140. I think I took like plus 165. I can't remember off the top of my head is the way to go. And I think the Horned Frogs, if a couple things break their way, they might be finding themselves in Omaha.
I like that bold prediction. It might not even be too bold. They could have definitely been a host. They were probably one of the first 1 or 2 just outside the top 16. Shout out to Lupton Drinking Club as well. A big podcast and kind of leaders of that TCU baseball fan base. Love interacting with those guys. However, I might burn that bridge because I am taking Oregon State this weekend in this regional. It's really kind of pick your poison. Whether you like the starting rotation of Oregon State, where their strengths are really the game 2 and game 3 guys over a lot of teams in the country. TCU's kind of stretched thin in that rotation. The big hole for me in the Horned Frogs this year. I think the bullpen's got some really nice pieces in Louis Rodriguez and also Braden Sloan, who's a wicked lefty. But they were supposed to have Ben Abel in the preseason. They were supposed to have Cole Klecker, who was a freshman that led them to the College World Series. They're without both arms. And Tommy Lepore has been excellent in that weekend rotation. But as Lupton Drinking Club, I'm not sure who's representing them here today in the chat, but he's like, TCU's probably got to go Brassfield on Friday. And Brassfield's kind of played his way or pitched his way into the rotation. He's been pretty solid lately. And also Cademan Parker may have pitched his way out of the rotation or could be injury there as well. I just don't think that they're necessarily in that groove that need to be offensively on the mound in the first 5 innings entering a regional. And I think Oregon State has that strength. They also have the blue chip talent, Ivar Arquette and Gavin Turley offensively. Also Trent Caraway is a guy that's kind of slipped through the cracks of where he was out of high school in MLB draft talk. And he's still a very dangerous power hitter in that lineup.
He was also, by the way, he was a first rounder, most likely coming into the year. I'm draft eligible sophomore. He's had a down year. I don't know if there's injury related. I'll be honest, because of the difficulty of trying to watch Oregon State baseball, like watch on their site, or you have to subscribe. It's not as easy right now to watch Oregon State. So like after the first few weeks when they were playing in tournaments, I really didn't get a chance to watch them as much as I wanted to. So I don't know if Trent Caraway maybe got hurt or what the approach was this year, but this is a guy who is insanely talented and he can get hot like that and carry a team. Would probably expect him to come back to school because he could be a first rounder next year. I understand what you're saying. And it's not unbelievable to think Oregon State can win their own region. Yeah. I think it all comes down to like 5 or 6 of their players that have to carry them over the course of the weekend. If even half of those guys don't show up, that's where they run into trouble. And the thing I like about TCU lately, from an offensive standpoint, which is one of the big critiques I had most of the year, their offense has really performed well over the last few weeks. And they're starting to click and starting to get hot. I know they didn't do well against Arizona. I mean, chances are they probably just ran out of gas. That was a long weekend, coming off what was a high of what they've been doing. So I think their offense can actually perform pretty well out in Corvallis.
I agree with you. And it's a good fan base as well that is going to be pretty passionate after they only had a handful of home games this year with 30 plus or 27 road games this season. So in the Chapel Hill Regional, North Carolina is the 1 seed. Oklahoma is the 2 seed. Nebraska 3 seed. Holy Cross is the 4. Johnny, you clipped out a portion of last episode. We were talking about strategy for Oklahoma as they were entering the regional. Go ahead and explain that again as it's now confirmed, and your thoughts on the regional winner or runner-up.
So basically anybody that missed Monday's podcast, I said, Noah, if you're Oklahoma in a very tough region against a top 5 team in a very difficult place to play, do you gamble and throw, I said Cade Crossland, but it's going to be twin brother Malachi, which I don't agree with that. Throw him game 1 against Nebraska to save Kyson Witherspoon for game 2 against a likely matchup against UNC. I believe that was the right move. You don't believe in pitching off.
Yeah.
I think this is the right move. Skip Johnson just whipped out his balls, and newsflash, they're very, very large. This is the right move if you're the Oklahoma Sooners because you have an uphill battle. And listen, Nebraska is not a gimme. I mean, they got hot and they won the Big Ten tournament. They're playing with a lot of juice right now. But truthfully, you need to be able to beat North Carolina. And I know people are like, well, you got to get there first for the 1-0 game. So you throw Kyson, say you beat Nebraska, then you're likely having either Crossland or Malachi Witherspoon going game 2 against UNC with probably Jason DeCaro going. To me, that doesn't set up very well. You have a better chance of beating Nebraska with another arm than you do UNC with another arm. And if you're going to win this region, you have to take a risk and do something special. You have to. Because in truth, if say Kyson Witherspoon throws game 1 and you win, and then you go against UNC game 2 and you lose, you're still having to come out of the losers bracket. So you got to make something happen. And let me tell you this right now. If this works for Skip Johnson, this is going to have a huge ripple effect on the rest of the tournament. Because if North Carolina gets buried because of this move, not only are they out of contention for the College World Series, but now it opens it up for Oregon or Arizona in the Super Regional. And then that opens up the path for one of them to get into Omaha. So this is a very big move with big ripple effects. And truthfully, this could go all the way to the College World Series, because if UNC's out from their side of the bracket, now there's one less big player that's in the field.
Yeah, I do think they are a big title threat, and the left side of the bracket, I think, is the weaker side of the NCAA tournament bracket. I think there's a big chance and possibility that you might have Kyson Witherspoon throwing against the 4-seed Holy Cross in the elimination game, though. Nebraska's coming in hot, confident after a Big Ten tournament title, and Oklahoma's offense is nothing to carry home about. I mean, that's not an excellent unit over there. They're not going to run away from a game, especially an offense that you could have easily kept down with a Kyson for 4 or 5 innings. You pull him after 60 pitches and you bring him back on Sunday or Monday. That's how I would attempt to go at it. If you're up 3 or 4 in that game with your excellent bullpen, use the bullpen to finish out game 1, is how I would attack that.
Here's the truth.
North Carolina, though, like ACC Pitcher of the Year, Jake Knapp, and also Jason DeCaro, who's probably pitching better than Knapp over the last 5 games, going in game 2, one of them. Like, I still don't know if Oklahoma's minus money against North Carolina with Witherspoon on the mound.
Yeah, but he gives them the best chance to win. And here's the truth. In my opinion, Oklahoma's nothing special. But what Skip Johnson's philosophy is, since bringing Reggie Wilton to be the base running coach, this team will run you into the ground. Yeah. They run, and run more. And, we're in this era of college baseball where almost every team tries to be this power offense, hitting a ton of home runs. And there's not a ton of teams that really dedicate themselves to being big steals, big base running, trying to grab the extra 90 feet. And that stuff plays this time of year. You have to be able to do that. You see these teams all the time that they take the extra 90, and that's the difference. And that's how Oklahoma is going to win a game. And truthfully, if you get to the 1-0 spot and you have Witherspoon against UNC, and they're going to be testing Luke Stevenson all day. And there's a comment here from Crutch. I'm not sure if it's DeCaro 1, Knapp 2. I haven't seen confirmation on that. But they're going to have to be dealing with runners all day, assuming they get on. Luke Stevenson's got to be sharp. I don't know off the top of my head how he did against base runners. I think he did okay.
He's one of the best defensive catchers in this draft class.
Because I don't have the numbers in front of me. But he's going to have to be doing that all game, worrying about steals. And Skip Johnson's going to be ultra aggressive. So, listen, I completely understand your point of view, but you can't beat this region if you don't take out North Carolina. And the best way to take out North Carolina is to throw Kyson Witherspoon game 2.
Yeah, Oklahoma's base running strength may not be a great strength in this regional, because even Nebraska has a defensive first catcher too in Hogan Holiso. So I don't love their draw at all. And honestly, books have it currently. So we're going to be doing game 1 picks tomorrow night, Thursday night, for Friday's games. Nebraska's plus 200. That's priced right now. Oklahoma minus 270 if Kyson Witherspoon's on the mound. It's wrong. jump on the Cornhuskers now before the line moves.
Yeah, listen, I agree with you. I mean, personally, I think if we're betting game to game, like Nebraska with no Kyson Witherspoon going against him, and it's Malachi, who Malachi struggled a lot this year, Nebraska is definitely the play. They're throwing Jackson Brockett. Brockett's been the best starter for the Cornhuskers this year.
Yep.
So it's definitely worth of 2-1 against Malachi Witherspoon. It's absolutely a play. I'm just saying overall, I think this is a good move. I mean, I have UNC winning this region. I've had UNC as a Omaha 8 team since the preseason. I gave them out early in the years 24-1 to win it all. Like I have a lot of hopes for this UNC team. I'm just saying if you're Oklahoma and you want to win this matchup, you've got to throw Witherspoon against UNC. And listen, Nebraska could easily win this game and get to the 2-0 game. And, you know, I think the Tar Heels would have a big advantage. The Tar Heels should be rooting heavily for Nebraska in game 1.
Yeah, they should be. I agree with you on that point for sure. The Eugene Regional, Oregon is the 1 seed. They were number 12 overall. Arizona is the 2 seed. Cal Poly is the 3, and Utah Valley is the 4. Johnny, explain to me who you have winning this regional and who's your runner-up.
This should be a good regional. I have Oregon. Oregon's taken some steam over the last 48 hours. I gave them out at minus 175, and that's probably the highest I would go. So if you don't have anything, if you have anything bigger than 175, I wouldn't even play Oregon, because while I think they are the best team in this region, Arizona's playing really good baseball right now. And Arizona always do this. They always get hot and finish the year strong heading into the tournament, and they're always a threat. I mean, they have Brendan Summerhill, who's a stud, Mason White, who can carry an offense like he did in the Big 12 tournament when he's on. And you have, I don't think a dominant rotation, but you have a pretty solid group of pitchers with Owen Krimkowski, who's elevated himself to the Friday role, Smith Bailey, an ultra-talented freshman who's going to be a big name to watch in a couple of years, commanding the Sunday role. Colin McKinney got bounced, I think. I don't know if he's back to the Saturday role, but their bullpen is playing really well here. So I think Arizona is absolutely live, and you're getting 250 plus 250 or bigger. It's definitely interesting. But I think Oregon at home wins. They have the pedigree. They have the best pitcher. Grayson Grinzel has been awesome this year. Their lineup top to bottom is the best in this region, with a lot of studs, including Mason Neville, 26 home runs. Cal Poly is there. That's not a gimme, but I don't really think Cal Poly is that good.
They're good offense. They're pitching. They got Griffin Ness as their ace, who's got a high 4s ERA. But outside of that, on the mound, they're a little lacking.
I think Cal Poly and Arizona is going to be a tough matchup for both teams. So I think Oregon against Utah Valley should coast. And here's the big thing: Oregon and Arizona, both of their offense they're bad against lefties. They're bad against lefties. Oregon's not really going to face anything of a decent lefty in this entire region. Arizona
Super regional too, possibly.
So that's big for them.
Yep.
I think Oregon's the play here.
I landed on Oregon too, Johnny. And Arizona was my preseason national championship pick for like value. And I think that Oregon got a really good draw. I really do. I've seen this team in person, and I was like, man, I don't know if that's a super regional team, because I watched Joseph Jurwa shut him down. Like, yes, he's an elite left-handed pitcher, but it also made me go and look at their left-handed stats. It was that bad, and it was
like 100 points lower, right?
More than 100 points. Their best 2 power hitters, Mason Neville and Jacob Walsh. Walsh currently leads the program in career home runs. Neville's nipping at his heels. They both played travel ball together since they were like 10 years old. Both of them are left-handed hitters. Up and down that lineup, the switch hitters are like platoon guys and left-handed hitters, mainly, if you were to put them in the pros. But I mean, there's not really a quality lefty in this regional. There's not really a quality lefty that they may face in the super regional that I think could really shut down the Ducks. So I think they're a dangerous, team at plus money to maybe get to the College World Series. That's hint. That's not where I'm going to go. but I have the Ducks winning the regional. I think Arizona's playing really good ball right now, and they're going to be my number 2. But yeah, I mean, Mason White, he could totally take over because he's not really outside of Grayson Grinzel. I don't know if Oregon throws him against Utah Valley or Arizona.
I wouldn't.
I mean, who knows? But yeah, if they throw him against Arizona, then the Wildcats might be in trouble with Brendan Summerhill and Mason White at the top 3 of that order. Aaron Walton's kind of picked it up, and he's been one of the better right-handed batters. The same with Adonis Guzman, but it's still not up to par with how they are against right-handed pitching for sure. In the next regional that we're going to talk about here, Coastal Carolina is the 1 seed. They are 13th overall. The 2 seed is Florida. The 3 seed is East Carolina. And the 4 is Fairfield. Johnny, your regional winner and runner-up in the Conway regional.
I jumped on Florida, I would say probably towards like the middle to end of April because, I just loved what they were doing. 1-11 start in SEC play, and Kevin O'Sullivan got his boys right. And, listen, it's not just because they're hot, and I know you're going to say a lot of the teams that they faced were gimmies, and that's true. That's definitely true. But, here's the thing. The Florida Gators have the pedigree. They've been at Omaha each of the last 2 years. They have one of the best coaches of all time in Kevin O'Sullivan. But their roster, despite all of the key injuries that they've faced, their pitching is awesome. Liam Peterson, Pierce Capola, Aiden King. They have good bullpen pieces. And despite some of the injuries, they still have a really good offense. They have a lot of guys that can put the ball over the fence, get guys in, and really just pummel you from a bunch of different ways. Now, Florida, to me, is maybe the most dangerous 2 seed. It's between them and Alabama, I would say. And Florida is a team that I have making a deep run this year. So I would have to have them win here. I'll say this, though. Florida's picked up a lot of steam in the last 48 hours.
They have.
And I don't like the fact that they're a trendy 2. I don't like that because everybody's kind of feeling the same way. Everybody started picking up on Florida the last few weeks. And when that happens, it's not like the trendy dog in football, like the NFL, but I think a lot of people are discounting Coastal Carolina. Coastal has the best rotation they've had in I don't know how long. And despite the fact that their offense isn't anything close to what it used to be like the last couple of years when they were top 10 in basically every category, it's still an above average unit. And they play really well at home. So I think this is a tough region. It's going to be a great region. But Florida, I just think is the better team. They're playing great baseball. They got the best coach, and I have them making a run, man. I think they're going to, but they can't look ahead off East Carolina. East Carolina's throwing Ethan Norby, who's very talented. It's going to be Norby versus Liam Peterson, so they have to win that game, obviously. But I gave out Florida at plus 115 in my RotoWire article. I think they're going to get this done. It's going to be tight, but I think Florida prevails.
What you were worried about is what I'm also worried about, and it's to the point where I stuck with the 1 seed in this regional. I'm taking Coastal Carolina to get out. The thing that if I were to associate with any baseball fandom, it is Florida. My aunt played basketball for the Gators, so I do follow Florida kind of closer than others. The injuries really nerved me. And down the stretch of the year, this was a really good defense until those injuries. And it's Kyle Jones, who is the center fielder. It's Colby Shelton, who's the shortstop, who they are trying and hoping that he comes back for regionals, but there's no guarantee that he will be back. The second baseman, Cade Curlin, backup second baseman, Justin Nadeau, got hurt in the final series of the year. And then also your catcher, Luke Heyman, is done for the year. And then you're down 4 left-handed bullpen arms. Like it's a bullpen that I think is thin, and they can't afford to get into the losers bracket. And it's a defense that I don't think is nearly as good as it was earlier this season. You look at Coastal Carolina, the offense isn't nearly as electric as it's been in years past. However, the pitching staff is unbelievable, and that's what they've been missing as a program in the last few years. Matt Williams has done an unbelievable job as the pitching coordinator over there, and Kevin Schnall in year one as head coach could have been up for a coach of the year, honestly. The weekend rotation's unbelievable. They had the Sun Belt pitcher of the year, and Jacob Morrison. They also have experienced postseason arms and Riley Eichhoff and Cam Fluke, and the bullpen's solid too. I like Coastal to get out and Florida as my runner-up. I am excited for this next regional that we're going to talk about because I haven't wavered on the opinion. The Auburn regional, where the Tigers are the 1 seed, the 2 seeds NC State, the 3 seed Stetson, and the 4 seed is Central Connecticut State. I'm going in this weekend with a ticket plus 250 on NC State and a 10-1 on Stetson to win the Auburn regional. Stetson was the preseason mid-major that I was the most bullish on. They had 14 Cape Cod players last summer. That was the second most in the country, only behind Vanderbilt, who was the number 1 overall team in the country in this year's bracket. You look at that pitching staff, and I think it's very, very talented. They had the A-Sun pitcher of the year in Jonathan Gonzalez. They have he was their Saturday guy for a lot of the year. James Hayes was the number 1, a mid-90s arm who transferred out of Georgia. They have Ty Van Dyke, who's their closer, who sits in the mid-90s. They have Jake Gorelick, who had a sub-1 ERA in conference play this year, which was unbelievable. Conference isn't too great, especially their divisions. They didn't really play Austin Peay until the winner's bracket final of the A-Sun tournament. But I think Stetson's got a lot of talent that's flying under the radar because of who they've played this season. Auburn, the main thing for the Tigers is that down the stretch, I don't know if Samuel Dutton's pitching his best baseball right now. And he was kind of their most steady arm. And in that weekend rotation, I don't know if there was top tier talent that I could compare against a lot of the other top 16s, the top 32 teams in the country. You may see Cade Fisher get the ball, who was the number 1 for Florida last year that, lost the job and went to the bullpen. You could see Cam Tilley, who's kind of all over the place with his control. Christian Chatterton's honestly been the best arm down the stretch for Auburn. He's a freshman. This Tigers team is a very freshman-led Tigers team with Chris Rembert and I'm blanking on other guys, but Chris Rembert and Chase Freilich, the catcher, and Bub Terrell, an outfielder. He kind of scuffled down the stretch, but he also is an important player. No more important than Ike Irish. He's one of my favorites. He's from southeastern Michigan, where I currently am based out of. But same with Cooper McMurray. He's been one of their most steady hitters, first baseman there. Auburn's got some strengths, and they are the best offense in this regional, but I don't know if they've got the pitching come out of it. Give me NC State as my pool winner, Stetson as Stetson as my pool runner-up. Let's do it.
Yeah, I agree. It wouldn't be surprising to see Auburn win their own region. I think they got gifted a little bit by getting the 4 seed over UNC, but you're looking at something that we talked about on Monday. Auburn has a great offense. They play a lot better at home than they do on the road. Samuel Dutton has been a dog all year, but as you said, he struggled down the stretch, and he's really their only reliable arm. They have high-octane arms. Cade Fisher is very talented, but it's been a rough couple of years for Cade Fisher. And Chatterton, I like. It's, like you said, most consistent arm. Cam Tilley, here or there. It's just you don't know who's going to do it for you after Samuel Dutton. And that's assuming Dutton has a good outing against probably Central Connecticut if they indeed throw him game 1. Aside from the fact that their price is north of minus 200, which is unbettable, this is a live region. I gave out NC State the other day, and you're getting north almost 3-1 on them. You're getting 250 plus, 280 in some cases. I don't personally love NC State. I didn't really like them coming into the year. I thought after losing so much senior leadership and superstardom, it was going to hurt them this year. And I think they kind of just found a way to patch it together. But the pitching is a strength of this team. Ryan Marone, Dom Fritton, they have a lot of horses in the bullpen that have not performed well, like Derek Smith and Cooper Consiglio. But they have a lot of guys. And Elliot
postseason
Avent,
experience too from
exactly.
the college.
Elliot Avent is a very seasoned coach with a lot of postseason pedigree that knows how to get his guys ready. So I think NC State's the pick here. You're getting a good price. And listen, like you said, you can't sleep on Stetson. We did our preseason show. You were all over the Stetson Hatter since day one. So I absolutely can validate that. And I think the Hatters are live too. This is going to be a really good matchup between Stetson and NC State. I mean, to be fair, you might say Stetson has the advantage with Jonathan Gonzalez in game one. You really could make that case. So I think it's a fair point to be taking both of those teams in the region. I think chances are the winner of the 1-0 game is going to have a good chance to beat Auburn in game two. So it would be a pretty solid betting strategy to take both NC State around 3-1 and Stetson at about 6.5-1. So I do agree. But I'm going to pick NC State just because of the experience factor as like my official pick. But obviously, like I said, Auburn winning this is not a surprise because Auburn is a very good team.
Yeah.
But I think some of their weaknesses that they've had all year might come back to bite them in the ass.
Yes. And one last thing. Hosting, there's also other responsibilities and other pressures. Like in front of your home fan base, there are some distractions. And for the freshmen going through that for the first time, that's something that I'm kind of nervous about. And the last time that this Auburn team hosted a regional, they went 2 in barbecue. They lost to a 4 seed and then the 2 seed in that regional. They lost to Penn out of the Ivy League and then Southern Miss as a 2. Before we get to the right side of the bracket, I want to plug, we have a bracket contest going on right now. The link is in the YouTube description, the podcast description. Go over there, join it up. It's the D1Baseball.com bracket group. It's TCE SGPN 25 or something like that. The winner gets a $250 SGPN store gift card. And the SGP guys are also going to be ripping packs live on air next Monday night. They'll be breaking a case of Panini Prisms with DAPS, and you can get a 10% off your favorite team with promo code SGPN. Go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/break to get in on the action. And Edge Boost is the first ever bank account that is built for bettors. They've teamed up with SGPN, ensuring that all gambling transactions are approved. There are no usage fees, no minimums. You can earn cashback rewards today and get a 100% approval percentage for all betting deposits. Sign up today at edgeboost.bet with promo code SGPN. Deposit $25 and Edge Boost will match that deposit. That is edgeboost.bet, promo code SGPN. And it's time for Underdog Fantasy as they are going long for the NBA playoffs with their extender bonus. Hop in game one, and the longer that the series goes, the bigger that the bonus will get. Sign up today with the promo code TCE SGPN to claim your special pick plus first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCE SGPN. And we are back here on the college baseball experience. Myself, Noah Bieniek, joined alongside Johnny VTV. You can follow him on social media _Johnny VTV, and you can follow me at NoahB77 _. We'll be sending out updates, live tweeting throughout the NCAA Baseball Tournament this season. You won't want to miss it, that's for sure. And I'm also working on a spreadsheet / kind of, I don't know what I want to call it. It's just a master sheet, kind of what I did for the preseason with all the rosters. This time around, it's a pitching database and also just kind of a stat spreadsheet. I might open that up to the public tomorrow when I finish getting a lot of the pitchers in tonight. We'll see. But yeah, I'm excited about what I'm working on right here. Johnny currently has access, so it's a good thing. Everybody's doing their own thing this year, and there's a lot of people doing great content in the college baseball game. The top right portion of the bracket. Texas is the number 2 overall seed. They are the 1 seed in this regional, in the Austin regional. UTSA is the 2 seed. Kansas State is the 3, and Houston Christian is the 4. Johnny, take your time explaining this because I'm going to go grab some water. Regional winner and runner-up.
All right. So, again, Texas, the Longhorns were a preseason 8 Omaha team for me. I believe Jim Schlossnagle coming over was going to make a huge difference. Texas is a blue blood program, and they had a ton of talent coming in. And Schlossnagle not only was a huge acquisition, but he brought his pitching coach from Texas A&M, Max Weiner, who's arguably the best in the business. And his emergence into Texas baseball was felt immediately. Texas had one of, if not the best rotation in the country for the entire year. Their stats remain among the top 5, top 10, even with the loss of Jared Spencer. And the loss of Spencer is big, and you can't understate that. But the fact is they still have a pretty solid rotation, and they have a great bullpen led by SEC Freshman of the Year, Dylan Volantis, who's maybe the best closer. Because they lost Max Ballou for most of the year, their offense did not perform to the level that they should have because they have a lot of talent in this lineup. But now with Ballou back, I think we're going to see this offense kind of emerge to the expectations and levels that we had for them coming into the year. It's not an easy region. UTSA is definitely live. They were really good in their conference this year. But I don't see anybody beating Texas. Texas would really have to implode for them not to win at home in Austin. Kansas State, I just don't think they have enough pitching. They don't really have one dominant starter. They just have a few okay starters that, every now and then can give you a respectable outing. Their offense is decent. Houston Christian, I don't really think has much of a chance. I feel like UTSA would be the runner-up in my opinion, but I got the Longhorns in what should be probably one of the more chalky regions. You're on mute.
Thanks for alerting me. My apologies. Yeah, I agree with you. And I agree to the point where, like you were talking about, Texas lineup kind of went in a dry spell when Max Ballou was out. But there's a lot of talent. 1 through 9, I saw that team live. They are good. And the bullpen was deep. Jared Spencer missing kind of hurts because it moves everybody up a spot in kind of their roles and importance of this team. And the bullpen has been a little more shaky than it was previously because this was the unquestioned number 1 staff for the first 10 weeks of the year. UTSA's pitching staff on paper doesn't look great, but there are some high voltage arms here. Braylon Owens, Zach Royce, Connor Miles, your rotation. And then Robert Orlowski's got 8 saves, sub-3 ERA. He's a quality arm. They are my runner-up here, and I'm going Longhorns for a lot of the reasons that I think Johnny has already said.
Hold on,
Go
real
ahead.
quick. Sorry, real quick. I got to say, I still think Texas is a legitimate threat for the College World Series. I know it's, listen, they're one of the favorites all year, but losing Jared Spencer really changed everything. Not just bringing everybody up, but you have a legitimate Friday night guy who was probably one of the 6 or 7 best arms in the country that was giving you a chance to win every single week. And not only does the volume of pitching matter in this tournament, especially in Omaha, but the quality of pitching. And that's what Jared Spencer was. And that sets the tone for every game that he starts, and it has a ripple effect. But I still think with Max Weiner at the helm and the amount of talent that they have and the depth, that they can still find a way to piece this thing together. But, everybody like Rouge Riojas has got to be a lot better than he's been. Luke Harrison's got to keep cleaning up. And I think they got to find a way to fix that 3rd spot. I don't know if Jason Flores is a solution. I personally would agree with putting Max Grubbs back into the rotation. He was the Friday guy for a lot of last year. I think him as a Sunday guy, and he's been great out of the pen, but I think him as a Sunday guy in a familiar role would be probably the best thing for the team.
Yeah, you mentioned it, so I'm just going to cut to the chase. I think Texas at plus 150 to get to the College World Series is a great price because they're paired up with a super regional that I think disaster could happen. Let's talk.
Take your time on this. I got to go get some water too.
All right, let's do it. So let's talk about it. The Los Angeles regional could be very parity driven. The 1 seed, which is 15th overall, is UCLA. The 2 seed's UC Irvine. The 3 seed is Arizona State, and the 4 seed is Fresno State. Now, here, I'll give everybody a sneak peek of what I'm working with. on Mike. So this is our regional. Let's rock with this. No, we got to go with this. I don't know what that is. So here we go. This is the current regional and super regional pairing that I have made. And look, I don't think that any team is supremely strong in a lot of the statistics that I look at and specific strength of teams. And all of the teams have played quality schedules this year. So I picked out as Fresno State could be the most live 4 seed in the tournament this year. I think UC Irvine was a quality team that was in the running to be a super regional host for much of the season. And then Arizona State's got a lot of talent. I just personally don't think the coach gets the most out of that bunch. UCLA really nerves me because they don't really have a Friday night guy. They don't have a number one that's going to go out there and win them a game comfortably that they have a lot of confidence in. Their number 2, Michael Barnett, started out 8-0 in Big Ten play and then kind of sputtered down the stretch. He corrected it though with a good Big Ten tournament start. And then Landon Stump on Sundays has been pretty good. But they don't have that number one. And I think that Fresno State, if they don't face either Stump or Barnett, they could be live with Jack Anchor on the bump, who has a crazy strikeout to walk ratio, strikeouts over 100, and he's only got 12 walks on the season. His ERA is a little bit inflated this season than it was last season, but he's a quality arm. Arizona State's got a lot of talent. Like I said, they are my runner-up in this pool, and I'm going with the Anteaters to get out. Give me UC Irvine to win this pool. I'm getting a little cute because I think disaster is going to happen in some way, form, or fashion. UCLA is kind of a team that, look, I'm a Big Ten fan. I watch a lot of Big Ten baseball. I don't think the conference was strong this year. I'm going to go Irvine because I thought the Big West was actually really impressive, and Arizona State because I believe in the talent, even though the bullpen can be a little bit of a disaster. Johnny, you are back after your water break as well. Walk me through your thoughts on the regional, your winner and runner-up.
Yeah, again, something we touched on Monday. Every year we get one or two of these wild west regions where it's all up for grabs. 1 through 4 has a legitimate chance to win. And I personally didn't think UCLA was that good this year. And this goes for a lot of the Pac-12 teams that transferred into the Big Ten. I think these teams that haven't been good, like UCLA in a few years, that all of a sudden leave the Pac-12 and are into a regional host. I think the conference has a lot to do with it. UCLA is like a fun school because they're a historical program as well. But the truth is UCLA, I think they got gifted with a regional. And I know they had over 20 wins in the Big Ten. It's a power conference. And some of their metrics suggest like, hey, listen, they had a good strength of schedule. Like, I mean, it was okay. Truthfully, like they don't have a signature series win this year. They lost at Oregon, they lost to USC, and they didn't really play many other teams that were of quality competition. So my thing is this: UCLA hosting, it's vulnerable for them. Like you said, they have like a handful of talented arms. They have probably like 5 or 6 quality arms, but there's nobody, like you said, that's a legitimate one that's dominant. They're all capable of having blow-up outings. I think my favorite is Wylan Moss, the freshman who was spending a lot of time in the Friday role and got bumped recently. And he's been kind of doing this Ricky Ojeda thing where he's piggybacking on the Friday nights and maybe getting back in on Sunday. But he hasn't really been as sharp as he was earlier in the year. So the pitching isn't anything special. And you look at their offense, it's really driven by 3 players. I think it's really up to just those 3 guys. But if the big guy doesn't do anything, and shortstop Rock Chalowski, who is a legitimate 1-1 2026 candidate after a monster year, who quite frankly has a real shot to win the Golden Spikes this year, they're in really rough shape. So I think UCLA is a vulnerable host, and they're actually plus money in some spots, and they should be. I like Irvine here. I think Irvine's the most complete team in the region. I think they're probably the most well-coached. And this is a team trending towards a host spot. until they kind of fell apart the last few weeks of the season. I don't like that they haven't played well coming into the tournament here, but their rotation is really good. They transformed it midseason, put Riley Kelly in the Friday role, Trevor Hansen Saturday, Big West Pitcher of the Year. Ricky Ojeda is a stud. It's very difficult to win that award as a reliever, but they piggyback him on Friday, and he's capable of going 3 or 4 innings and closing out a ball game, and then they can bring him back on a Sunday. So their pitching is pretty good overall. Their hitting is like 5 perennial studs deep that carry this offense. Anthony Martinez battled injuries and he's had a down year, and he is a legit stud. He was a preseason Golden Spikes watch guy. They have Chase Call, who I really like, Jacob McCombs, Colin Yaman. I think, quite frankly, Irvine getting 3-1 in some spots, which I did give out, is ludicrous. Arizona State's a team I have a lot of love for, but they hosed me a lot this year. The talent's there, but Willie Bloomquist does not know how to get the best out of his guys. Their bullpen is atrocious. They've given up so many leads, and despite how talented and deep their offense is, they get too streaky. They have opportunities where they don't convert, and they just have these moments where they kind of fall off the table, and they can't put any ball in play. They can't get a runner in. And Arizona State, while they do have talented pitchers like Ben Jacobs and Jack Martinez, I just think there's too many times where they just come out flat. And Fresno State, I think you can make a case, is the most live 4 seed. Jack Anchor Friday night against UCLA is a great play because you can get them at plus 240. Fresno State has a stud in Murph Gray, by the way. So Fresno State is a really good underdog plus money banger look in the first game. But I like Irvine 1, Arizona State 2 in this matchup.
All righty. And Josh, first off, they're called the regionals. There are West Coast teams that do play baseball and do get rewarded regionals if they play well during the regular season. They had a top 20 strength of schedule, a top 16 RPI. They won 24 Big Ten games. And, they were awarded a regional. I don't know what else you want.
By the way, this is where RPI comes into play. Like, it's total crap. Like, they didn't beat anybody. They lost to UCLA, or I'm sorry, they lost to USC.
They lost Big Ten championship.
I understand that, but they didn't beat anybody of quality. They lost to Oregon. They lost to Oregon State in a midweek. I mean, their big win is Cal Poly and maybe San Diego, which only means something because Cal Poly won the Big West tournament when they might have not gotten in otherwise. And San Diego played an awful conference. I don't even think they went 500, but somehow won like 19 conference games in the WCC.
Yeah. San Diego scheduled pretty tough. That's why they were kind of under 500 there. West Coast regionals exist too, and they got one. That's the simple answer there. There's only 3 on the West. UCLA is one of the hosts. And look at every other team in the regional. They're all on the West. They're called the regionals because they all are mostly local teams. So the next regional that we're going to talk about is the Oxford Regional, where Ole Miss is the number 1 seed. They're hosting Georgia Tech as the 2, Western Kentucky as the 3, and Murray State as the 4 seed. Johnny, who do you have coming out of the Oxford Regional, and who's your runner-up for our bracket pool?
Another live region here. I think Ole Miss is definitely not as strong as some of the other hosts, but they're solid. I'd probably put them like middle of the pack in terms of strength of host. Ole Miss has played really good baseball in the year. They really have showed out, and they looked good in the SEC tournament. Hunter Elliott, a lot of kudos to him. He really wasn't that good for most of the year, but like the last 5 weeks, he's just shoved. This kid was an integral part of their 2022 title run as a freshman. Had Tommy John the next year, basically missed the last 2 years, and he's really playing good baseball. And this is the kind of guy that needs to really show out in order for Ole Miss to get up there and make that run. Their offense hits a ton of home runs. They're top 10 in home runs. They have just a bunch of different sources of production. They don't have any legit superstar. I don't think as of right now they have a guy that's like a perennial first rounder, but it's just a lot of good depth that can do some damage. Georgia Tech, I haven't believed in all year. Our preseason show, I had G Tech in the middle of the pack in the AC to finish in the ACC regular season. I like their offense. I think it's good, but I don't like their pitching. Tate McKee has kind of fallen off the table. Brady Jones, I mean, he had a good last 3 starts coming into the conference tournament, but he looked like shit against Clemson, completely imploded. Their one good bullpen arm is Mason Patel. Jaden Payne is pretty solid as well, but it's a thin pitching staff for Georgia Tech. So I don't like them here, especially at a plus 150-ish price. Western Kentucky at plus 470 is my shark in the water here.
They are a metric darling.
I pointed Western Kentucky out midseason on my Future Wednesday series on RotoWire as a team to make the College World Series at 15-1 because they can pitch. This team has a legit weekend rotation. They have some really good bullpen arms, and they have probably the second best player in the region here with Ryan Weidman. I mean, this kid's awesome, Ryan Weidman. He does so much for this team. So I think Western Kentucky is definitely live. I really do. I think they're worth the sprinkle, but I think I officially went Ole Miss here as my pick with a sprinkle on Western Kentucky. In terms of confidence level on a scale of 1 to 10 for Ole Miss to get out of here, I'd probably make it a 6.
The goodness.
What?
Texas Longhorns Stadium just got ransacked.
What?
By weather. I'm about to retweet it. The left field wall, the center field wall collapsed.
What?
I just retweeted it. That's certainly something.
Oh, Jack the Longchamps. Wow.
DeLongshaw, yeah. So yeah, I go Ole Miss too. I have them coming out of this regional. I really like this team. I really like Georgia Tech as well. And I also really like Western Kentucky. I think this is the toughest, the strongest regional, honestly. Georgia Tech didn't play necessarily the strongest schedule this season. So some of the stats I very well accept they could be inflated, but I think they have a strong trio of starting pitchers and 2 really good bullpen arms. None better than Mason Patel. I mean, Mason Patel has been one of the best pen arms this season. Jalen Payton's kind of pitched his way into the weekend rotation. Tate McKee has come on strong. Brady Jones had an incredible start against Louisville, who has a really good offense 2 weeks ago. I think this is a solid weekend rotation. Ole Miss, also another very balanced team. Experienced, senior-led starting pitching rotation, good bullpen arms, and they have really been hot on the mound down the stretch. The one thing that concerns me about Western Kentucky, specifically on the mound, is that their horse, their number 1, Jack Bennett, for basically the entire season, he's been battling an injury the last 3 weeks. So he did pitch during the conference tournament. It wasn't tremendous, but he did show that he can go. So that's definitely a positive. They've got like 9 arms that have thrown at least 20 innings with a sub-4 ERA. It's tremendous depth. But we'll see how they do against 2 quality offenses, because Georgia Tech's got like 7 guys that bat over 320. They're a really power-driven team. And Ole Miss, I think, is just a really steady offense. They do struggle with the swing and miss, but that lineup top to bottom, I think, can be dangerous with a lot of those hitters. Luke Hill, Judd Udemark are the 2 that I really look at as the straws that stir that drink for Ole Miss there. But the pitching is definitely the strength, in my opinion. Let's talk about the super regional pairing for Ole Miss, and that's the Athens regional, where Georgia is the number 1. They are the number 6 overall seed. Duke is the 2 seed. Oklahoma State is the 3, and Binghamton is the number 4 seed here. Johnny, you're winner of the regional, and who do you have as the runner-up?
So I feel obligated to have one of the big long shots here. Oklahoma State 10-1. Talked about it on Monday. I'm rolling with them, and betting does factor into this. So let me just say, if there was no money involved, I still think I like Oklahoma State. Georgia is the best team. They most likely win, but they're north of minus 300, which is a little ridiculous because this isn't an easy region. Duke is still a tough team. Oklahoma State I went with because not just the price at 10-1, which is egregious, which should be closer to 4-1, but because they have the best weekend rotation in this region. They have Harrison Bodendorf, Mario Pescia, and Sean Youngerman, all of whom have played really good baseball, especially in the second half of the year. Their bullpen has some high-octane arms that can really lock it down in the late innings, especially if they're on. Gabe Davis, Ryan Urey. Their offense is a lot better than what they've shown this year. They have a bad strikeout problem. I 100% understand. But they're so high variance that I think if they play closer to their potential, they can go 3-0 this weekend. And the thing is, Georgia, as good as their offense is, their pitching really isn't good. They don't have many quality arms. Brian Curley's been their best weekend guy this year since moving out of the pen into the rotation midseason. They have a couple decent bullpen arms. JT Quinn's pretty good, but it is vulnerable. And I think the fact is, I need to be taking OK State. You got to take a shot here because I think they're definitely live to win this region. They've won their last 3 series of the regular season. They went 8-1 in their last 9. They came out from like 6-11 in the Big 12 in the middle of April to win 15 games in the third best conference in college baseball. I love what they've done, and I think because they've been playing so much better and they have a lot of talent, Nolan Schubart, in my opinion, is the best player in this region, and he can carry this team by himself when he's on. So Oklahoma State is definitely worth a shot. Chances are Georgia does win, but I'm going to roll with OK State, man. Scare money don't make no money.
I like it. I like the shot. It makes a lot of sense. And also not really sure what Oklahoma State's planning on doing with that rotation. They don't really need to switch anything up. It's a very strong group of starting pitchers. But Georgia does have a hole against left-handed pitching this season. Duke's got a lot of southpaws, and Oklahoma State's number 1 is Harrison Bodendorf, who is a left-handed starter. Very interesting because, Georgia has curated their offense to be full of guys who have power to right field, whether that's left-handed sticks or guys that can go the other way with some power. It's 315 down the right field line. It does not take a lot to hit a home run out of Foley Field down the right field line because of Kudzu Hill that's right there in the back. That's the frat party house that's going to be absolutely lit this weekend in Athens. Oklahoma State can do it. They've got 2 big boppers that are left-handed in Colin Bregman and Nolan Schubert. Duke can poke some. AJ Gracia is a big left-handed stick. But overall, I do think that Georgia might have the best pen. They have Brian Curley, who's able to go out there and win a game for them that they have confidence in. And I think that they're the most well-rounded club. So I agree with Johnny a little bit that, although I want to be bullish on Oklahoma State, their offense hasn't been very consistent this year. There's a lot of swing and miss. The only source of run production is home run, which this ballpark can suit them. It's one of the better hitter-friendly ballparks. But I'm going to go Georgia, and I'm going to go Oklahoma State as my runner-up. But I think Duke's pretty competitive, too, in this regional. I think this is a tougher regional pick for me.
Yeah, it's difficult for sure.
Let's shoot down to Baton Rouge. Call them Baton Rouge. LSU's the 1 seed. I think they're 7th overall. And Dallas Baptist is the 2 seed. Rhode Island, the 3 seed. Little Rock is the 4 seed. Johnny, we were talking the other day. We thought the Baton Rouge draw was pretty weak. I did a little bit more research. I think we weren't overlooking Dallas Baptist at all. But Dallas Baptist is a quality team. They actually have a higher ranked strength of schedule than LSU this year, for whatever it's worth.
Uh-huh.
Dallas Baptist starting pitching is strong. The bullpen's a big weakness, though. they can compete offensively with LSU. And we did point out, like you mentioned, that LSU has a weird, tendency to just go cold offensively, even though they're a quality offense, one of your better offenses in the country. But DBU, being that they are also a big power hitting team, one of the best home run per game rates in the country, the box is one of your bigger college parks. I don't know if that's necessarily going to play against LSU's pitching. I think it's a talented bunch on the mound for the Tigers. You're looking at the best weekend rotation duo in Cade Anderson and Anthony Ianson, who are both near the top of the nation's lead in strikeout category, and also a super talented bullpen with Chase Shores running it up high 90s. Zach Cowan, who's been unbelievable for them. Jaden Newt's come on lately. And then you're also dealing with whether or not they're going to use Kason Evans as a starter or a reliever, but he's been a quality arm out of the bullpen. So, yeah, I'm going to go with LSU. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. So officially, their nickname DBU stands for Dallas Bombers University.
Hell yeah.
Unofficially, it stands for Dog Shit Bullpen University. I've dealt with Dallas Baptist a handful of times this year. I've played this game with them each of the last 2 years. We're like, hey, I'm going to take a shot on them at 70-1 to win it all because they're always one of the best mid majors because they're always offensively driven and they always have at least one or two studs in the rotation. But they do this every year where they win 40-plus games. They're the top of a terrible Conference USA conference, and then they just lay an egg in the regionals. I like them to advance out of that Wild West regional last year where it was against Arizona, Grand County, West Virginia, and it was a disaster.
I think they were the first one bounced, right?
So listen, crazy. Like Dallas Baptist is no gimme. I mean, Grant J is probably their best player. I love Grant J. I think he should definitely be getting some serious first-round consideration this year, especially because he's a power-hitting catcher. But the tendency and the lack of execution in the playoffs, like every year for Dan Hefner's group, is going to probably rear its head. LSU is a team I loved preseason. They were one of my 3 teams to win it all with Texas A&M and UVA. So like LSU was a team I really locked in on since the preseason. And one of the things that I said was there's going to be a lot of transition this year. But I felt like, listen, they're 8 arms deep. They have a lot of talent. And I knew, despite that Jay Johnson having to roll out a different format, like you're getting Ianson from UC San Diego, who did really well there, but obviously had to prove it in this format. He's went nuts this year. His draft stock is rising. I mean, with a couple good starts in June, he might sneak into the first round. Cade Anderson was a guy who was good at LSU last year, but didn't really have a ton of starts in the weekend and pitch meaningful innings. It was a gamble for Jay Johnson to throw him into the Friday role, and the gamble's paid off. He's been one of the 3 best pitchers in the country this year, leading the league with 145 Ks, best 1-2 punch, 8 arms deep in the bullpen. Chase Shores looks comfortable in his role, up to 102 last weekend. And the offense is talented. But, one of the points I brought up, they just have this weird tendency just to disappear where, you saw it against Ole Miss. Maybe they just went hard for that one game against A&M to lock in, no questions asked about their super regional host status. And then they just kind of said whatever in that game. But they have that weird tendency, and that's the one thing to look out for. And chances are, if Dallas Baptist ends up beating Rhode Island, which they should, Rhode Island's it's not a layup, but they should beat Rhode Island. They'll probably have to face James Ellwanger of DBU on that Saturday game. James Ellwanger is their best starter. Ironically enough, I don't know why, some teams do this. They save their best arm for Saturday roll, and that's what they've done all year. Ellwanger is a stud. So that is something to monitor. But I have LSU going all the way this year. So they got to get out of here. There's no bettable number at minus 400, but, just in overall baseball, I like the Tigers here this weekend to put a stamp on this region.
It is a beautiful draw. We'll talk about that in a little bit. because the Clemson regional, Johnny, I think might be the weakest regional of the 16. Diving into it deeper, I have changed my mind on who I think gets out of this region. So I'll begin on the analysis here as well. Clemson's the 1 seed, West Virginia the 2 seed, Kentucky's the 3 seed, and USC Upstate's the 4. Beginning with Clemson, they are a team that have been a chameleon, and I mean that in not necessarily the most positive way, because one weekend they're a team that has some pitching strength and they can demonstrate how they can completely dictate a game with, you can go Aiden Knock for 6-7, you can go Lucas Malstedt shutdown game over, or Reed Garris shutdown game over. And then there's other games where their offense looks incredible, but it's not really they don't really have a strength other than they have maybe the best closer in the country in Lucas Malstedt, who's a sidewinder with an incredible ERA and one of the most the highest save totals in the country, if not the highest right now in the nation. Clemson is your 1 seed. They are your betting favorite currently, but 1 through 4 in this region, honestly, are all short betting odds. I landed on Kentucky getting out of this regional. Here's the thing, and I had West Virginia first. I really think that West Virginia is a solid team that has played weak competition this year. I thought gut reaction that they would be getting out of the Clemson regional. I looked at it. I wanted to do a deep dive. Fielding wise this year, West Virginia just has not been great. It's over an error per game. It's bottom 25% in the field of 68 or field of 64 this season. And when you play at Clemson, it's one of the most rowdy atmospheres. And every time your pitcher throws a ball, they play the Venga Boys. And if you don't know the Venga Boys and we like to party, you're about to learn during the regional, because it's just do 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 in between every single pitch. The place is an absolute bubbling cauldron, and you need to be able to pitch and catch and play defense at Clemson, because they're not going to be putting balls over the fence nonstop. None of these teams actually will be in the entire regional. Kentucky, I think, has one of, if not the best starting rotation in this regional, with Nick McKay, Ben Cleaver, and they've been going Nate Harris in game ones for a lot of the year, but I think that's going to change this weekend. And then I like Jackson Novy and Simon Gregerson out of the bullpen for Kentucky too. I think that they have one of the best defenses. That's kind of their strength of the team. They are going to be able to play a little bit better against Clemson than I think West Virginia will be, because I think Clemson's going to find their way into the regional final. I don't think they're going to be bounced early here. So give me Kentucky as the regional winner, Clemson as the runner-up. Johnny, I know you don't like the Kentucky team. Explain to me why I'm wrong.
So this is probably the second up for grabs Wild West region here, where any one of the 4 seeds can win. I had Clemson preseason as an Omaha 8 team. This is the first time in 3 years that I've actually been rooting / believed in Clemson. I've grown very cold of them over the last 3 weeks or so. I think they're a very talented team, with a decent amount of balance, but their execution has just been so bizarre where they can just completely flatten out, and their fielding's been a little bit of a concern to watch over these last couple weeks. But in June, this team has always seemed to been rising to the occasion. Eric Bakich is a great coach. This is a rowdy atmosphere. As you said, this is one of the biggest home field advantages in the sport of college baseball. They have the best pitcher in this region in Aiden Knox, and I know he's been very hit or miss this year, more miss than hit. But I think with him, Lucas Malstead, a collection of the bullpen guys, and he moved Drew Titsworth from a pen piece to Saturday guy, and he's been really good his last 5 starts. So I think ultimately I like Clemson here. I think I gave him out at a small plus money price before it's moved. I like Clemson here at home to get this done, because this is something that they always rise to the occasion. And Cam Canarella puts on his cape in the month of June. He always makes the big play West Virginia, I haven't been on all year. I don't think they're that good. They don't have one legitimate win, and like we're celebrating them as the Big 12 champion. It's just they're not that good as everybody thinks. They're just not. They have talent, but they've played such a paper soft schedule. I don't know if they'll be able to handle this environment. They completely melted down in Manhattan against Kansas State the second to last week of the season. Kentucky, in my opinion, is going to be the runner-up. And I say this because they've played the best competition all year. Kentucky is always fundamentally sound. That's one of their strengths. They have a really talented freshman in Tyler Bell, switch hitter. Yep. They have probably the strongest starting rotation, most consistent at the bare minimum. And they have, even though I don't like him, he's still a good coach in Nick Mingione. So I think Kentucky's absolutely live, and plus 340 is a good price to take. I just have to stick to the guns that I have with Clemson being a preseason Omaha 8 team. Yeah. But aside from that, I like the fact that I think they have the best roster in this region, and they're at home, and I know what they do in the month of June. It's just that's what it comes down to. And I'll say this, listen, I think truthfully USC Upstate is live here as well. It's between them and Fresno as the most live 4 seed. The Spartans are a spirited team. I think it's not unbelievable to see them upset Clemson game 1 if Aiden Knox's not sharp. It's absolutely in play. I mean, it's even worth a chance if you're getting Upstate around plus 250. It's worth a little bit of a play.
They are a hell of a story too.
Yeah, they are.
Kane Sweeney, the head coach, he's one of the youngest head coaches in Division I, and on the team, their best hitter is Johnny Sweeney, his younger brother. So
that's crazy. I mean, truthfully, like Clemson is definitely one of the bigger upset alert region hosts, but I'm going to go with them. It's something of a hold my nose play, but I think if I was going to bet somebody else, it'd be Kentucky at plus 340.
Yeah, how I would describe Clemson is they are a Mexican boxer that's going to continue to walk into the fire. Like he'll have his gloves up, but he's taking shots, but he just keeps coming. And you know, some of those guys, when they throw and they can land big blows, and they could land a knockout, Clemson, but they're just going to continue to keep coming at you all season long, and all 3 years in Eric Backett's tenure, people haven't been able to put them away. That's like their biggest strength. But I think when you look at them, they might have the 3rd best weekend rotation in this regional, because we talked about Kentucky, but also West Virginia has a solid trio. Their bullpen, West Virginia's, has just blown up and fallen apart in the last 3 weeks or so. But Clemson definitely the best bullpen in the regional. That's their strength. We move to the final super regional pairing, where we have Tennessee as the 14th overall seed. They're the 1 in the Knoxville regional. The 2 is Wake Forest, 3 is Cincinnati, and the 4 is Miami, Ohio. Johnny, who's your regional winner out of Knoxville and runner-up?
I got to go to Tennessee. Again, preseason Omaha 8 team for me. I think Tennessee is arguably the most talented team in the country. I mean, you look at their roster, they might have the most talent. The second half of the year has been a complete disaster. They've lost 6 of their last 7 series. They've just been ice cold. And I don't know how much – I don't really know what it boils down to. I mean, their bullpen's been bad. We talked about that. Their offense has been extremely inconsistent. And I don't think their fielding has really been that good either. So what gives? I think, like Clemson, this is a team that, in addition to being ultra talented, has a fantastic head coach. One thing I learned about Tennessee, you never turn your back on a Tony V-led program. They play different baseball in June. And, you know, Knoxville is probably one of the 5 biggest home field advantages in the sport. I think Tennessee is going to come out to play. And I have nothing to base it off of history and what the roster is, because recency bias would point, hey, they can get 2 and barbecued. It wouldn't be outrageous to say that. I'm going to go with Tennessee. I'm not going to bet it, but the runner-up Cincinnati. And let me tell you this, and I know you're going to agree with me. Cincinnati being plus 850 makes no sense. Cincinnati is a live dog with fleas. That's a shark waiting in the water. That's a goddamn fox in the hen house. Cincinnati not only is a talented team, and they've had to fight for their playoff lives the last month, but they match up extremely well because in addition to having the Big 12 Player of the Year in Carrington Cross, who had an amazing season, their offense is a ferocious running attack where they have almost 130 bags on the year. That is very bad news for a Tennessee team that struggled to contain the run game, especially Marcus Phillips, who, if Cincinnati wins this Wake Forest game, would most likely face Marcus Phillips in that game too on Saturday in the 1-0 matchup. So that is a real problem for them. And additionally, Cincinnati's got some pitchers. Nathan Taylor was really good this year. And as their Friday guy, he's going to go against Wake Forest, who, I mean, Wake Forest has talent. I don't think it's their year. I don't think they have enough quality pitching. They have a lot of guys that they stole as Friday guys from other programs, but it's really nothing to write home about. I don't think they have one legitimate arm. I think Blake Morningstar is probably my favorite arm from them. They're going to burn Nathan Taylor against Wake. I think maybe then Kellen O'Connor is the guy.
Marsh has been in the game too, but I think you have to move up O'Connor, I think.
So I think that's probably who Tennessee would face. Cincinnati's live in this series, in this region. You and I both know that. So plus 850 is a play to make. The only bet to make in this region is Cincinnati plus 850. I think Tennessee wins, but they're north of minus 300. So there's no bet there. And if they continue to play the way they have been, they might not win a game. So Cincinnati is the only bet to make, but my official pick is going to be Tennessee.
I'm going to agree with you here. I have Tennessee coming out of the Knoxville Regional, doing a little bit more research, thinking about it a little bit more. A big question mark for Cincinnati and that strength of the stolen base department and just how aggressive they are on the base paths relies in the health of Landon Vitterick. And he's got 37 stolen bags on the year. He's missed like the last 8 games with an injury. So they're hoping that they get him back for the regional. Like, he is super, super important to this team because I do stick with my original gut feeling that this is the dream draw that Cincinnati wanted. They have the worst fielding 1 seed. They have the worst fielding 2 seed in the entire field of 64. And they're not afraid to put down. They are going to bunt you to death. They're going to steal bags against you. Like Johnny said, with the draw that you could face Marcus Phillips. I also think that Cincinnati throws strikes. Like their arms don't overpower anybody, but at the same time, they don't really give up home runs. And Nathan Taylor's been excellent at keeping the ball on the ground. So going up against a Wake Forest team that their main source of offense is the power and the home run department, I don't think there's going to be a lot of big flies against Nathan Taylor. So I think they do win that first game. They're in the winner's bracket. I have faith in them getting to be able to be in that regional final. They need Vitterick healthy. They need him healthy. But I think the soft tossers, like specifically O'Connor, he's like mid-80s, high 80s, left-hander. That's going to throw Tennessee off. Last year, Evansville, they couldn't hit the soft tossers. So I think it's a good draw for Cincinnati, but I don't know if they have enough firepower to win it. I do like Carrington Cross and some of the other bats in this lineup, like a Jack Natilli and a Cal Seffick and Tommy O'Connor, but I don't know if they're going to be able to get it done in Knoxville. The final regional here that we have to talk about is in the Fayetteville Regional. Arkansas, the number 3 overall seed. They are playing the 4 seed North Dakota State in that first game. Kansas is the 2. Creighton is the 3. The Fayetteville. Oh, by the way, yeah, I agree with you. Cincinnati plus 850, and I had Kentucky plus 320 to get out of the Clemson Regional that I forgot to mention. Fayetteville Regional, Arkansas, North Dakota State, Creighton, Kansas. Your winner, your runner-up, any future that you may like in this regional.
So Arkansas has really drawn a lot of the conclusion that by a lot of people I've heard, that they're the most complete team in the country. They have one of the top rosters in the country. And I wouldn't disagree with that. I think it's fair. Something's been missing for me with Arkansas all year, and I can't exactly put my finger on it. You look at their metrics on paper, they might be the only team in the country that's top 10 in WRC plus and top 10 in ERA or something along those lines. I don't trust Arkansas. They have not been able to perform at home the last 2 years in their region. And maybe third time's a charm. I mean, they don't have a brutal region here. They don't have, in my opinion, a legitimate Friday guy like they have in years past. I like Zach Rude. I think he's talented. He was in Trey Savage's shadow at ECU last year, and he performed really well, and he's come over, and he's had a solid year for Arkansas. And he took over probably halfway through the year, maybe even earlier than that, the Friday role from Gabe Gackle. And Root's been solid. I mean, he's had some really standout performances. But I wouldn't trust him as a legit SEC Friday guy. Gage Wood, their Saturday guy, he's super talented. He's a high-octane arm, but the sample size is a little small on him this year. I don't know if I trust him to go out there for 6 innings in a super regional game. Landon Beidelshees might have been battling an injury, but I don't know exactly what's been going on there. Their bullpen is talented. They have a lot of good bullpen arms, but I don't know if they have anybody that's dominant. Like Gabe Gackle's been better as of late, and he was a star last year in the pen. There's a lot of good talent, but I don't know if there's any hammer in the late innings for Arkansas. Their offense, to me, I think a lot of these guys overachieved. Like Wahivo Loy season, I don't really think that's who he is. I don't think this big junior leap is truly him. A lot of his mechanics is not my favorite. He's cut down on the swing and miss from last year. He's got a really big uppercut swing. A lot of these guys, to me, aren't really indicative of the kind of years that they've had. They're still a great team that is very likely to win, obviously, but they're minus 700 on FanDuel to win their region. For a team that struggled as much as they have in hosting their own region, it's ridiculous. And they got Kansas in this region. I think Kansas is live. I give them out at 7-1. I'm picking Kansas to win this region, dude, because the simple fact is Kansas's offense is really good as well. 100 home runs this year. Brady Ballinger has been a stud. He's been so clutch for them. And they have a really good 1-2 punch in Dom Vagley and Cooper Moore. I think their pitching is a little inconsistent, has a tendency to blow up. But when it's on, it looks really good. And they have a really nice little trio of bullpen arms. And honestly, they have a few more. They probably have 4 bullpen arms I like, and then maybe another one that can get some serviceable innings here. I think Kansas is a live dog here. They should not be this big. I think Kansas should be 350 at most. So give me the Jayhawks here. And I think truly one of two things happens. Arkansas faces their demons and they just boat race this regional, or they lose outright. I don't think there's any. I think they either win 3-0 or they lose outright.
I'm going to go with Arkansas. I actually like their pitching. I think it's great, not necessarily elite starting pitching. I think the bullpen depth is incredible and one of the best in the country. There are a lot of high-octane arms in that staff that they can deploy whenever and wherever they want throughout the regional. I think they've learned their lessons about letting starting pitchers go a little too long. We saw it with Hagen Smith against Kansas State last year, and ultimately it was what buried them in that regional was dropping that game to the Wildcats. Now you get another Big 12 team that can really stick it. They're a very good offense that will love to hit in Baum Walker. But I think that Arkansas's got a lot of different arms and plenty of different looks to throw at Kansas and Creighton and North Dakota State, even though Creighton and North Dakota State aren't very good offenses. And I think Creighton, their strength is the pitching staff, but I think listening to Ed Service's press conference, they may struggle to keep these teams in the ballpark. He was really noting that as something that they'll need to work on. And Creighton's strength of schedule this year was not great. It was 181. So, Arkansas winner. Kansas as my runner-up.
But so here's the thing, and I understand what you're saying, but like that stuff Arkansas has, on paper they do it, but I just don't know if I trust them to get it done. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's something about Arkansas. Like, on paper, it looks great. It might be the most complete team in the sport, but there's just something missing for me. I've watched it all year where, like, they haven't really beaten that many good teams. They took Texas. That was impressive at home. They took Texas. And they beat a Tennessee team that's really struggling. They've lost a lot of the big series against quality competition in the SEC. And I understand they're not facing one of these quality SEC opponents here, but it's just they have this tendency to really just not show up a lot of times, despite what they have on paper. So I do understand that, but that's really like where I can't get away from it.
I wouldn't say they lost a lot of series to SEC quality competition. They swept Texas. They beat Tennessee at home. Those were two really, really good.
Yeah, but Tennessee can't play their way out of a paper bag right now. And Texas was impressive. They dominated Texas.
Yeah.
And like, listen, you still beat Tennessee. I get that, but like, it's not like they played the Tennessee of the first half of the year. Everybody's beaten Tennessee in the second half. Kentucky beat Tennessee.
They're still a top 16 in the team, according to the committee. And you said they were the most talented
understand
team.
That, but
so now we're going.
I agree, but that doesn't mean the most talented team doesn't mean they've been that they're the best team right now. I mean, listen, on paper, it's a quality win, and it's still a quality win anytime you beat Tennessee. But like, I think it looks better on paper than in reality.
I actually think when I watch it, I think their stuff plays up compared to what it is on paper. I'm going to disagree on the Arkansas pitching staff there. I still think that the depth of their staff is the strength of the team, and the offense is an added bonus that they haven't had in a long time. Like right now, on paper, they are the best offense in the country. They were never supposed to be built up to be that. Even if they take a step back, I still think they have the pitching to get them through a regional and get them to Omaha. We're going to talk about our Omaha 8 coming up and futures on getting to the College World Series and national championships in just a second. But Rhythm is your home for AI-backed picks and props. You can dominate the NBA playoffs, PGA, MLB, and they also just launched their NBA model as well. Rhythm knows that you'll love it, and that's why they'll include a 7-day free trial for you today. Rhythm has some amazing deals going on right now. 25% off a monthly subscription with promo code SGPN25 and a 50% off annual subscription with promo code SGPN50. That is Rhythm, spelled RITHMM, promo code SGPN25 or SGPN50. Get your 7-day free trial today at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. And SGPN is teamed up with Circa Resort and Casino in Las Vegas, and they're giving away the ultimate fantasy football experience for a 12-person league to draft in Vegas and be treated like VIPs for the stay. The winner will receive a 2-night stay at Circa Resort and Casino for the entire 12-person league. That is 6 double king rooms. They will hold their draft at a cabana at Stadium Swim with a $5,000 food and beverage credit. You'll get limo transportation to and from the airport, a welcome party at Legacy Club for the entire league when you arrive, a reservation at the world's largest sports book with a $500 beverage credit for the league, a 2-hour open bar package for the league at Overhang Bar. The contest runs from May 5th to June 30th. Go over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/circa to enter today. That is sportsgamblingpodcast.com/CIRCA. And the college baseball experience is also brought to you by MyBookie.ag. MyBookie is your place to bet on every sport, including the NBA playoffs. For the true degens, the MyBookie money bag is there for you, and MyBookie accepts customers from a ton of different locations. It's easy to deposit, and you can get lightning fast payouts using crypto. Head over to MyBookie.ag, promo code TCESGPN for a 100% deposit match up to $1,000 today. Terms and conditions apply. That is MyBookie.ag, promo code TCESGPN. And we are back here on the college baseball experience. And we're giving out our Omaha 8 College World Series appearance and national championship futures right now on the show. Johnny, we're going to keep this quick because we went deep in analysis on all the regionals. It was great stuff. I think a lot of people that are just tuning in will really like it. Let's jump to our Omaha 8. So my first super regional pairing was Vanderbilt Southern Miss. I'm taking the Commodores to get to Omaha there. Then I have Florida State, Oregon State. I have the Seminoles going to Corvallis and winning that series. I think that the Noles offense is really the difference maker here. A lot of people are pointing out that Florida State has a tough draw in their region, and they're plus 275 to get to Omaha. I think their weekend rotation is legit. The bullpen is definitely a weak spot, but the draw they received is not necessarily brutal, and I think they may be able to manage it. Give me Link Jarrett, who I think is one of the best managers and coaches in the sport, plus 275 on Bet Rivers to get to Omaha. North Carolina and Oregon, I have in a super regional matchup. I have the Tar Heels getting to Omaha in a closely contested series that might go 3 games. I have Coastal Carolina hosting NC State in another super regional matchup, and I have the Chanticleers getting to Omaha. In the top right portion of the bracket, I have Texas and UC Irvine in a super regional. I have the Longhorns getting to Omaha. They are plus 150 to do so, and I'm jumping in on that. I think this is a cakewalk of a draw for the Longhorns if they don't screw it up. The next super regional I have is Georgia hosting Ole Miss. I'm going to go with the Rebels. I like Ole Miss. I think it's a really good balance of starting pitching, very experienced arms in the rotation and the bullpen. And I think up and down the lineup, they can play. They can match Georgia's offensive talent. And I think they've got a better pitching staff. Give me Ole Miss, and they're plus 400 to get to Omaha. Next super regional matchup, I have LSU over Kentucky. This one is kind of a rematch of, I think it was 2023 super regional where Kentucky visited the box. I like the Tigers all day long. I really don't think that this one would be close if this comes to fruition. LSU to get to the College World Series with one of the weakest regional draws and super regional draws. They're minus 115 on DraftKings. I think they're going to be able to do it. Give me LSU to get to Omaha. And my final super regional matchup is a rematch of the final weekend in the SEC where Arkansas hosted Tennessee. And I think we get another electric series in Fayetteville. And I have the Hogs squeaking it out again over Tennessee to make up my Omaha 8 of Vanderbilt, Florida State, North Carolina, Coastal Carolina, Texas, Ole Miss, LSU, and Arkansas. Johnny, go ahead. List off your super regional matchups, who you have winning them, make up your Omaha 8. Any College World Series appearance futures as well.
Yep. All right. So super regional 1, Vanderbilt, Alabama. I think Vanderbilt plus 120 is a good play here. They're at home against Alabama. I do think Bama to make the College World Series at plus 475 is worth it, because if they get past their Hattiesburg regional, then they're going to go back to Vandy where they played overall pretty well until they blew that game 3. So my official pick is going to be Vanderbilt to make the College World Series, but a sprinkle at plus 475 on Bama is noteworthy as well. Super Regional 2, Texas plus 145 to win the Super Regional. Texas was a preseason Omaha 8, so I'm not gonna buck the trend now. Super Regional 3 between Arkansas, Tennessee, Kansas. Tennessee was a preseason Omaha 8, so you can get Tennessee at plus 170. DraftKings has a little bit better of numbers, whereas it's plus 165 on FanDuel. I just think Tennessee finds a way to get right, even though on paper it looks a little bit better for Arkansas. I think the experience in June is going to be the deciding factor for the Tennessee Volunteers to get back to Omaha. Super Regional 4, with the Auburn and Coastal Carolina region, I got Florida to make the College World Series at 3-1. I could definitely see Auburn, Coastal, Florida, even NC State get on that run, but I like the Gators. I think they're going to continue to overcome their injuries, and you can make a case that they have the best pitching staff in this entire potential super regional draw. Next up, Super Regional 5, it's going to be UNC for me. UNC was a team that I've liked, and they're minus 110. I think UNC is going to beat Oregon in their own home super regional down in Chapel Hill. UNC was a preseason Omaha 8 team for me. I think they're legitimately a top 3, top 4 team in the country and have real juice to win it all this year. Super Regional 6, I actually had both LSU and Clemson preseason to make it, but obviously only one can do it. LSU was my pick to win it all. You can get them at -115 to win the Super Regional and make Omaha. I think LSU is, in my opinion, the best team in college baseball. The fact that they have the best 1-2 punch in the rotation is going to be the thing that ultimately drives this train. Plus, not to mention, they have legitimately 6 talented bullpen arms, maybe 7. Super Regional 7. I actually prefer Ole Miss over Georgia, and I have Oklahoma State to win that region. I don't think Oklahoma State's going to be Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss is too much talented pitching, especially with the lefty, which is what Oklahoma State struggles against, and Hunter Elliott being that. I think Ole Miss, after a year, I didn't really expect a ton from them. Plus 380 to get to the College World Series is a very good price, and I think it's very reasonable. So I'm going to go with the Rebels. Last but not least, it's a tough 3 teams between Oregon State, Florida State, and TCU. I had TCU beating Oregon State, so I'm going to try and stay consistent. And I have Florida State beating their region out. And so ultimately TCU would have to travel to Tallahassee, where Florida State would catch a big break if that ultimately happens. Florida State is the more talented team, but while I could absolutely see them win here, I think I'm going to go with TCU as a surprise to make the College World Series at plus 290. I think what's going to be the undoing is Florida State's bullpen is going to find a way to implode as they usually do. So my super region, my updated Omaha 8 is TCU, Ole Miss, LSU, UNC, Florida, Tennessee, Texas, and Vanderbilt. And I'm going to go with UNC to play LSU, where the LSU Tigers win. But I'm going to have UNC take down Florida in the Final Four bracket. And LSU is going to take down Texas in the right side of the bracket. So my Final Four, in conclusion, LSU, Texas, Florida, UNC.
We didn't talk about this pre-show at all. Both you and I landed on an LSU North Carolina College World Series final. We're seeing eye to eye on that, which is dangerous. I have are you going to mention the national championship prices?
Well, hold on. I'm gonna give you 2 things that's out on FanDuel. I haven't checked elsewhere if it's out, but for LSU in North Carolina to face off, it's one of the cheaper prices out there. It's 31-1 for those 2 teams just to meet, which actually I think is a pretty good bet, and it's worth making. It's hard to pull off, but I think it's fair, and I would have to think of a better way to maybe monetize that. But truthfully, I don't know if there is.
Pizza bet.
Yeah, it's a pizza bet. It's better off than taking LSU and UNC straight up. And then if you want LSU over UNC like we do, that's 50.
Oh, I have North Carolina over LSU.
Okay, so then if you had that, it's 60-1 on FanDuel. So
the reason why I have UNC over LSU is just because I think that left side of the bracket is much weaker. My College World Series bracket on that left side is Vanderbilt, Florida State, North Carolina, Coastal Carolina. Vanderbilt's got a weak offense, in my opinion. Florida State's got a strong offense, good weekend rotation, weak bullpen. Coastal Carolina, not the greatest offense, strong starting rotation. North Carolina, I think, is the most balanced of all 4 of them, and they've got a soft regional, in my opinion, at least. And Oregon's going to be a tough super regional out. I'm not counting that. I think they get it done in 3. That's my prediction against the Ducks. But North Carolina, I think, has the softest way in the College World Series. LSU, because of the days off in between worked in there, having the top two arms and Cade Anderson and Anthony Ianson going every other day, and then getting a 2-day off break when you're sitting in the winner's bracket, hopefully, is how I see that. They'll be able to pitch those two as starting pitchers throughout the bracket. However, when you get to the College World Series finals, that game one is going to have to be somebody else. We saw it with Paul Skeens, how they did it 2 years ago. Skeens didn't even get to throw again because, it wasn't long enough of rest. So when it comes to a game one, if both of these guys control their destiny throughout Omaha, like I predict them to do with their starting rotations, I think North Carolina's got a better game three, and Aiden Houck, or like Ryan Lynch pitched incredible in the ACC tournament, or like a Folger Boaz if they choose to go him, or a Walker McDuffie if he comes out of the closer role and wants to start a game or needs to start a game. I think that Scott Forbes gets North Carolina the program's first ever national championship. He's been with that program for 20 plus years. The lifer, he gets it done, fulfills that prophecy under Fox. But yeah, LSU's got a cake regional and super regional. I had to have them in the final as well, and I think it sets up pretty well for them in Omaha. That's going to wrap up. Oh, yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, I was just saying I completely agree. I think we're probably going to get 3 SEC teams in the Final Four this year. I think if there's one non-SEC team that's most likely to make it, it's going to be UNC.
All right. Yeah, I have a bracket that's completely SEC, by the way. LSU as my bracket winner, Arkansas as my bracket runner-up, and then Texas Ole Miss as players there too. So I actually have 5 SEC in Omaha. We did see the conference expand, so it's not too far-fetched that we will get 5 in Omaha this year. I have 2 ACC, and then I have Coastal in Omaha. Let's have some fun. Thank you all for tuning in. This was a longer episode, but very quality content. Hope you all enjoy the timestamps because it takes a little bit of time for me to go through and do that. Join our bracket contest. The winner gets a $250 gift card to SGPN store. Compete against me and Johnny if you think that you know more ball than Mr. Johnny Venezia and myself. You can follow Johnny on Twitter and social media at _JohnnyVTV. Johnny, anything else that you'd like to plug before we get out of here?
Make sure you tune into my podcast, Breaking Bet. We're going to go live tomorrow as well. And not for nothing, you better get on RotoWire and check out my column because I got all the picks. I got every detail explaining the regionals. I'm going to put out the super regional picks and all the the opening weekend picks as well for the regionals. So make sure you check my column out on rotowire.com.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll be doing content with 11.7 throughout the postseason as well. I'll be live every single night throughout the NCAA tournament on this platform, the College Baseball Experience. And if you're looking for pictures prior to me even getting on it, I'll be posting the link to my Excel sheet that I'm currently curating right now to where, like, if you don't have a whole lot of time to listen to a podcast that may be an hour long on a Saturday morning or Sunday morning prior to NCAA tournament games, you'll be able to pull up my Google Sheet where I have all the matchups projected with some of the stats. So I'm hoping that that's my plan, and I'm working very hard to get it done. I've not slept much the last week and a half. I've been super busy with postseason work. So people in my mentions and whatnot don't understand, like, because I haven't really been tweeting at all the last few days. All I've been doing is working. But I would rather not be doing anything else. I love this time of year. I cannot wait for the action to begin, Johnny. Thank you again for joining me on the episode. We'll see you all tomorrow for Friday picks, game 1 picks of the NCAA tournament, Thursday night. And we'll hopefully have a whole lot of projected pitchers for you guys. That's going to wrap it up today. Thank you all for joining the College Baseball Experience. You better start thinking about yours. And we are out of here.